Look at... Oh, so handsome. Ready? In 3, 2, 1.
You're listening to Conversations in Bed with me, Joleene DeRosier.
And me, Ken Case.
This is the freshest, funnest, most fantastical podcast out there that supports healthy, polarized relationships that takes place right in our bed. Don't go anywhere. We're about to give you the goods on love, life, and leaning into truly powerful relationships right now.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Conversations in Bed. I'm Joleene DeRosier.
And I'm Ken Case.
And we're super stoked about this episode 1 because we made it to episode 6. And 2, we're sponsored.
Here you go, right there.
We're sponsored by Burke's Beans. Thank you so much, Greg. So we have the beautiful t-shirts that we're sporting. Look at these mugs. And we're going to talk to you about the coffee in our mug.
Yep.
You're going to do it because you do it best, and I like it best when you describe the coffee. But we just want to say thank you, Greg. These coffees are phenomenal.
Yep. As soon as we put it in and started brewing it, it was just unbelievable the way it permeated the air and just smell. Yeah, it made your mouth water right then and there. So thank you, Greg, so much for answering the call. Burke's Beans from Concord, California, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody thinks wine, right? From the Concord grapes or whatever. But no, let me tell you right here, this is where it's at. And today we're drinking a Springtime Serenade, which is a true Kona blend, with the Kona bean coming from, of course, the big island of Hawaii, the Kona region. And also it's a blend of beans from Ethiopia, from Colombia, and also where you're going in a little while, Costa Rica.
Costa Rica, baby.
Yes, you're going to go visit there. But it is delicious. Yeah, chocolate, springtime fruits, citrus, honey. And yeah, the aftertaste is delicious. The aroma is unbelievable.
It says it's a well-balanced, smooth, sweet, bright, medium body with a clean aftertaste. And it actually is very smooth, and I love it.
Yeah, that ain't no lie.
It's just right. It's just right. So, so thanks again to Burke's Beans for sponsoring this episode.
Thank you so much. And we have more to come.
Yes.
We have more to come. He sent more. So this is just one episode. We will be sampling the others.
Don't forget to visit his website, and it is in show notes as well if you're listening to this podcast, the audio version. So
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yep. Delicious. Along with that, like we like to start out our episodes, I have a question for you.
Okay.
If you had the chance to meet any cartoon character, who would it be and why?
Oh, a cartoon character. Who would it be and why? Oh my gosh. I used to watch Magilla Gorilla.
All right.
All the time. It was my favorite, so I'm aging myself. I guess it would be him, and I would ask him what it was like to be a cartoon character back in the day. I don't know, how old is that cartoon living?
It's been around a little while.
Yeah, I haven't seen it in decades. Yeah. But I just kind of, he was so nice. And a lot of people misunderstood him because he was a big gorilla.
Yeah.
So I'd be like, what was it like to be dissed all the time and you had to be a star? What up with that?
Yeah. Yeah. Very cool.
How about you?
Miguel. Well, so God, there are so many great cartoon characters. One of my favorites who just cracked me up all the time, I would love to sit and have lunch with Johnny Bravo.
Oh my God, I forgot.
For those of you that know Johnny Bravo, what a character. What a character Johnny Bravo was. He just reminds me of that jock in high school, he's just a funny guy. I would love to be able to sit around with him.
I forgot that you enjoyed him.
Yeah, Johnny Bravo. One of my favorite sayings of Johnny's is, it's enough talking about me now, let's talk about me. And there you go. That's Johnny Bravo in a nutshell.
You used to throw that line at me too. I'm like, what are you talking about? Well, now that you've woken me up a little bit, I'd want to meet Stewie from Family Guy.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
And Brian too. I'd want to meet them both. I think, boy, what a card. Just genius writing to begin with. Seth MacFarlane. That's my own personal opinion, but I'm a screenwriter, so I tend to gravitate towards comedy.
Yeah, I was going to say, and you're a comedic screenwriter. Your humor is on point, and yeah, absolutely.
appreciate that.
Yeah, yeah.
We
good.
talked about in the last episode manifestation. I should have manifested that. I'm just going to do it anyway. But we talked about in the episode, what would we want to manifest? And I loved what I chose. But now that we're chatting, I would manifest the creation of Sunday Guy, which is a comedic television pilot I wrote. I wrote several episodes just to flush out my characters, but that's what I would do. And if there isn't a producer interested in it, then I will manifest the money and you and I.
Yeah, yeah. Sunday Guy, when we first met, you gave it to me to read because I'd never read anything, that was written like that.
Like a screenplay.
Yeah, like a screen. Yeah, exactly. And literally burst out laughing on almost every page. I could picture it in my head, the way it was written, and yeah. And again, we're just getting to know each other. And I was like, you are so brilliant. I could picture the episodes. I could picture the actors playing those roles, which I would imagine is how you write something like that with somebody in mind. I don't know.
Sometimes, yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. All the time, actually. Sometimes it's people in real life.
Yep.
Me included. I'm in every episode. I am a character or a part of me. Or it's actors already out in the wild where I can picture them. And, you don't write the episode with them in mind to be hired.
Right.
But you can use their personality, and that's what I do.
Yeah.
And it matches the character I'm writing. So, yeah. I appreciate that.
So good. Yes, absolutely.
Anyway, you ready to dive in?
Onward and upward.
I'm looking forward to this episode because when it comes to relationships, I think there's a difference between tolerating behaviors and accepting behaviors. And that's what we're going to be talking about this episode. What is the difference? And I realized there was a difference after we discovered we have a friend in common who is involved in a relationship, and she likes this guy. Mm-hmm. But in different conversations she's had, we learned that this man's children didn't know about her. Mm-hmm. And that I think, if I'm remembering correctly, he was on his way to a divorce, but it wasn't full. And I mean, I'm not dissing that particular part, but there was a lot of things that he was not going to move forward with to initiate and finish the divorce. And she was trying to be okay with that. And it's interesting because it's not the first time I've heard literally that same story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I sat down with you and I said, what do you think of this? Because as I move forward in this relationship with you, to me, there's a distinct difference between tolerating a behavior and accepting a behavior.
Yep.
And the way, when we talked about it, that we discussed it, tolerance is when you choose to accept a behavior, even when it hurts you, or even when it has the potential to hurt you. And if you must tolerate a behavior, that behavior should be short-term until it evolves into a place of acceptance. Otherwise, it can create a level of resentment. Mm-hmm. And
Absolutely.
then on the opposite side, the acceptance factor, well, what's the difference then with acceptance? Acceptance is when the behavior doesn't trigger you in a negative way, and it's a behavior that has been corrected or is being corrected for the health of the person or for the greater good. And we're going to dive into this because I really think it's a difference that we have to pay attention to. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, we make excuses for our partners and their behaviors.
Yeah, something just popped into my head when you were talking.
Lay it on me.
Something that I've heard, and I'm sure we've all experienced or heard it, but and maybe this goes along with tolerating and accepting, but this is a little bit off topic, but when you say yes to something, make sure you're not saying no to yourself for something else, right? I don't know if that plays. I think it does. I think it does play in, because if you're saying yes to tolerating the behavior, then you're saying no. You may be, I don't know this for a fact, you may be saying no to yourself to maybe you're lowering your boundary. Maybe you're lowering your standard to tolerate the behavior for whatever reason, because you think there's nothing more, because you want to feel accepted, because you're just willing to tolerate it. That's the word, right? To tolerate it, even though it's a little bit of a negative effect on you.
Well, it's painful. And the whole conversation that we're building out to the audience right now is certainly there's no such thing as perfection. But what are you willing to accept? And why are you tolerating poor behaviors? And I think the generalization is that many of us don't think we deserve more or that there is better. And I truly believe that's the case because I lived that. Mm-hmm. So not in all partnerships, not every partnership I had was someone who was projecting behaviors to intentionally hurt me. Sometimes those behaviors were hurting themselves and then I was feeling the reverb. But let's say, for example, because a lot of times, and I've done videos, social media videos on this, people will say, well, what do you consider a behavior and how would you define it as tolerating or accepting? If your partner is criticizing you, why are you tolerating that? Or why are you accepting it? Mm-hmm. So what word, if you insert it in there, feels in your body? If you're tolerating it, again, it's a negative behavior and it has an effect on you. And I think when we're out in the world and we're looking to be coupled, and certainly nothing wrong with being single, we both were. Mm-hmm. But when you're coupled, sometimes you love the person, and this is how it works. You can love someone with all their faults. And again, we're not seeking perfection when we talk about this. But if their behaviors are hurting you, why are you staying? Why are you in it?
I just took a deep look there. Right? Yeah. And not from my perspective, but maybe from somebody else that was maybe experiencing that with me, right? I've talked about that before, about
say more
about knowing what was the common denominator, in the whole thing. So there is a level of in tolerating on both sides, but just knowing that tolerance and acceptance. And at what point does what you think is accepting is really tolerating it? And at what point do you just say enough is enough? Mm-hmm. Or do they say enough is enough? And then you take a deep dive.
And that's where healing begins.
Absolutely.
So here's a perfect example, and I can speak to this because I have been sober for 8 years. If there's a partnership, for example, where someone is suffering or struggling in an addiction, that's their work. So in my addiction, it was my work. It wasn't up to anyone else to move me through it or to force me into a place of healing. I had to put myself there. But for a long time, I had a partner that tolerated it. And it was unfair to him that he had to tolerate that because I wasn't healthy. I wasn't right-minded. I wasn't willing to get better because, frankly, if I go somewhere to get better, then I can't drink. I can't, I have to admit that I'm powerless over it and I have to give it up. Mm-hmm. Because if anybody listening understands addiction on any level, there is no, you can't have just a little bit. You can't have just one. You can't do it just this one time. That's why it's an addiction. So if we use that as an example, and if people can put that in their minds as maybe they can relate to that particular addiction or any addiction, you may be with somebody who's struggling with that. Of course, you're not going to shut the door on them. But how long are they going to remain unhealthy and not take care of themselves to serve the greater good? And there comes a point, and I'm thinking of a friend in particular who had to release a relationship because of the other person being addicted. She loved him and still loves him. But for his sake, she had to release him so he could take the journey to get well and be better. So she tolerated it as long as she could. Had she, if he heals and they come back together, then she's in a place where he's on his healing journey. Now she can accept that behavior was once there because now he has things in place where there's not going to be the pain and she's not going to lose or suffer or give up herself or lower boundaries to allow that behavior anymore. There's healing. And now we accept the healing And as we said, the difference between tolerating and is accepting is the behavior has been corrected or is being corrected for the health of the person or the greater good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It's deep and it takes a lot of reflection, and releasing that person, though it's hard, is really for the betterment, not only for yourself, but for that person. Mm-hmm. And it's up to them to make the choice. You can't heal anybody, right? It's up to them to make the choice at that point. And that's when they really have to take that deep dive and look and do the work and make the decision and make the choice. Speaking from experience.
When you tell me a little bit more about that, you said that twice. Be vulnerable.
This episode is made possible thanks to Burke's Beans, a gourmet coffee roaster out of Concord, California. Organic and sustainable coffee beans made your way. Visit burksbeans.com to place your order. If you'd like to sponsor Conversations in Bed, drop us an email at Joleene@takeyourvoiceback.com. The email address is in show notes. Now back to the goods.
Yeah, there was for a long, long time, for whatever reasons, whether it was, whatever reasons it may have been, and I have an understanding as to why, and a lot of it had to do with the work that I did and stuff, and just the way it manifests itself, and self-medication and all that, and living and just getting into that addictive habit, no matter what it is.
So for clarity, what was the work and what was the habit?
So working as a paramedic, working in EMS, and there wasn't all of the awareness about how all of this comes into play, whether it's PTSD or complex PTSD, which is another thing. Or
'cause you're seeing things that people don't.
Right. Yep. Yeah. It's that, and there's so much to it, and it's not just the blood and the guts and I mean all that stuff. Of course, that's there, right? But there's so much more to it, on depending what kind of service you work in and what kind of level you're working at, but the socioeconomic things that you see, those are really what kind of got to me, right? Working in an urban environment, seeing the socioeconomic downfall of these places and just how people lived and kids and all this other stuff. And that kind of brings you into that area, and you self-medicate. And there wasn't all of the things that we have in place now. I am such a huge proponent now of critical incident stress management and taking advantage of all those things. And I drill those into, the people that work for us. And we have a very robust system, and EMS has really woken up. Emergency services in general has woken up to that. Anyways, kind of getting off topic a little bit, but that's kind of what led me in. And once, as you know,
how did you self-medicate?
Alcohol. Yeah, alcohol. And once you get into that space, it's just, as you know, with addiction, it's just perpetual. You can't have just one, right? We've talked about that. Mm-hmm. And I had gotten to a point where I was really starting to work on myself after the downfall of relationships, and realizing the common denominator, right? And realizing that, and knowing that I had to get better. And like we have talked about before, we were both in a good place. I was in a good place. I was on my feet. I was healthier than I'd been. I was getting a handle on things. I didn't drink as much, which there you go, right? Yep. So I was in that space, and then you and I met, and it was so simple. It was so easy to hear about your journey and hear what you were doing, that fortunate for me to have you there, the switch went off. And I have not missed it. I have not thought about it. It is not an issue at all. I am at the healthiest level I've been in, like, forever. I'm thinking clearly. It's just crazy. So I guess getting back to where it was, in a relationship, it just came to that place where the tolerating on the other side became to be too much. And after all was said and done, and it was over, and I realized it's like, my God, I did that. I'm done hurting people. So you have to come to that realization. So anyways, tolerance and acceptance, and thank goodness you're there, and I think we're there for each other. And it's to hear your journey and to hear what you've been through is just amazing. But it really is not even a second thought now.
How long you been sober?
Well, we know the date, right? It's been, and it's just baby steps. It is just baby steps, right? It's been roughly 6 months, 7 months, almost seven, maybe almost 7 months.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you, you. But it really isn't even a thought. I go places, we go places, I sit in places, I'm with friends, I'm whatever. It doesn't even. It's not even.
Just so you know, if there is ever the moment, that's exactly why I'm here. It's exactly why I'm here, because the place I am in my life, and let's pretend I didn't know you, that's something I wouldn't tolerate, is somebody who, and they can have it and they can do whatever they desire with it, but it cannot be in my space for my own health and mental health. I'm going to break out into tears. I worked way too hard to get myself to that space. So you're minimizing your life at the detriment of them. And again, it doesn't mean you don't love them, but we can't heal other people and we can't force other people to heal. Sometimes we have to let them go and let them have the journey. If I were to bring somebody back into my life that was addicted, I would either, it wouldn't last, or I would fall. Because that is an energy. If I bring it into I worked so hard to remove it from my center. That's what I mean. Now, is it something I could accept at arm's length, but not in a close relationship like this? So if I had a friend who came to me and said, I am struggling, great, how can I help you? I accept that. I understand that, but I wouldn't tolerate it as a closer friendship because it doesn't serve me. Not that it's about me. I can still help them at arm's length so I stay healthy and that they get healthy.
Yeah. And we've experienced or talked about this before, and in no way, shape, or form, and I've been out with people, right? Am I going to be that person that says, "What are you doing that for?" That we always joke about the ex-smokers were always the worst ones when you get playing in bands, right? Who to keep making that story. Absolutely not. I mean, do what you're going to do. If you want to talk, I'll be glad to talk. I'll be glad to lay it on Tim. But no, I am not judging. I am not here to preach. My God, I barely. I got to take care of me. So yeah, that's.
You just said it. You have to take care of you. If you're not healthy, how can you take care of your girls, even though they're not super close to home? How can you take care of your friends or me or Win? And that's what I'm trying to help people understand is, bottom line, when a behavior occurs in a relationship, stop and ask yourself, am I tolerating this? If so, why? Am I accepting this? If so, why? If the answer is in a more healthful realm, if it's healthy, it's accepting it. Because you're not going to accept a behavior that's poor. And if you are, why? And if you say to me, it's because I love them, I know that. Of course you do. I loved my father very, very much. But his addictions and his behavior and his anger were something I was not willing to tolerate or accept. And I had to remove myself, and I could love him from a distance. And I know that's a hard pill for people to swallow, because when it comes to relationships, I think we use a percentage scale, and we've talked about this. It's like I heard a friend say to me once, well, he's good 80% of the time, or he's good 70% of the time. And I was like, what? And I was sharing that with somebody else, and that somebody else said to me, he's actually not good 100% of the time, but is showing up with a mask 70%. And I went, whoa, that's true.
Yeah. Yep.
And I know we all need to be loved. Hey, here's the thing that we need to remember. The people we allow in to our lives is based on how we feel about ourselves. I had a coworker in a past life, a way, way past life, that I drank too. And he drank as well. And he would always, always talk about it. And he didn't know, and this, I've been sober 8 years, so this was about 8 years ago. He didn't know that I was evolving into a place of sobriety. I didn't share it with a lot of people. I still didn't understand it. And people didn't understand when I wouldn't take a drink, and I didn't know how to explain it because sobriety was so new to me. But he would come in talking about how drunk he got the night before, and I'm like, I don't care. I can't support you like this. Anything else, I can support you. If you want to talk about solution or good vibrations, count me in. I accept that. The rest of it, I will not tolerate.
Yep. Yeah. And I think you alluded to it earlier about tolerance. There's a time frame. And we talked about it a little while ago. It's like, again, later in life relationship, right? And I don't know if I mentioned it or you mentioned it, but it's like as we get older, we tolerate less.
Yes.
Right? We tolerate less. So you tend to move on. You just tend to set your boundaries, and there's less tolerance because experience is the best teacher, right? Well, I've got a lot of experience behind me, when it comes to age and everything else. And so being less tolerant as we get older. And so why is, okay, all these things are popping in my head. So if I took somebody who was younger, in their mid-30s, in their 30s, in their 40s even, how would we have taken it in our 30s if somebody tried to explain tolerance and acceptance? I don't know. And at what point?
Well, are we open-minded? Was I open-minded in my 30s? Oh, God, no.
Well, right.
First of all, I knew everything in my 30s, or so I thought I did. But you make a valid point. Maybe that's why I wanted to talk about it so much, is when I had this realization, I was like, there's so much more to this. And I think if we're willing to ask ourselves that question, no matter how old we are, it depends on how open-minded we are. It depends on where we are as far as being a wounded person. Don't you think?
Yeah.
Because like I just said a little bit ago, we meet people where they are, but we also decide who we let in based on how we feel about ourselves. So when I was at my lowest, when I had low self-esteem, when I was in addiction, my meter was low. I let everybody in. I didn't exclude anybody. And to be clear, I'm not talking in a judgmental way. I'm talking about when people were toxic to me or their behaviors were unhealthy, I let them in. Where now I can't do it. I won't tolerate it. I'm in a space now where one of the people I spend the most time with, she's an athlete. She's an instructor. I started taking her classes. We train together, training for a triathlon.
Yep.
That is a behavior I accept because it's healthy and it's for the greater good. And she teaches me, and we've become friends, and I'm so grateful for that. I learned from her. I'm sure she learns from me. That I let in. If it was something where it was too much or aggressive and supplements were involved that could hurt me and all these things, I will not tolerate that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And you bring up a great point. You brought up a great, you mentioned it a little bit earlier, about the people that we let in. And when we were in our wounded state, or when we were in our, in that addictive state or whatever it was, we let those people in and were influenced. And it's not on them. It's not on them. It's totally on us, or on me. Right. But now that I've come around to this place, and I'm sure you've experienced this, there may be people that choose not to be a part of that anymore, right? And that's okay. That's okay.
I mean, we're not for everybody.
Right. Absolutely, yeah. And there's going to be those, I've said this before, there's going to be those that look at me now and others, and they say, what is this? This is, yeah, where'd that guy come from?
This is amazing is what this is.
And I told you, and I mentioned it to you, a little while ago, that, where did that guy come from? Well, that guy came from the old guy. The other guy is gone. Like I said, that epitaph was written.
Even you couldn't tolerate it.
Right. So now it's just coming into a new, and if that means some people don't accept it or some people go away. I mean, I can't, what other people think of me is none of my business. I mean, I can't control that, but it's real. And yeah, I mean, they may find that journey for themselves, or maybe they're okay with it. And that's for everybody else to decide. That's no judgment, no judgment at all.
I get it.
None.
I get it.
Yeah.
So when we were talking about this, believe it or not, we actually flushed these episodes out with notes. So another thing that came up when we were talking about this was the word compromise. And I like what you said, and we may get a little bit of pushback, but hear us out. We both agreed that there shouldn't be compromise. But wait, here's why. When I said that to you, your words were, because I wrote it down, we shouldn't have to compromise because it kind of falls in line with tolerance. So tell us what your thoughts are.
Yeah. So I guess my thought process with the whole thing was if we compromise, we're in one form or another reducing something that, that we believe in or something that we feel should be a certain way, and meeting that person halfway, whatever the situation may be. And the danger being that if, at least my thought in this was, if that person doesn't hold up their end of the deal, then you're in turn, at some point in time, there's going to be resentment. So I guess that really falls in line with tolerance, right? So you're tolerating it. So a true compromise would be, there would be an agreement that benefits both of you. You both agree to it. You're both happy about it.
Right. That's key.
Yeah. You both, it's agreed upon, and you're both buying into it. One person is not giving a little more than the other person.
Or one person isn't hurting more than the other person.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I think I said we shouldn't have to compromise.
It could be, I'm going to speak out of turn here.
Go right ahead.
It could be based on past experiences, and maybe both of our past experiences with compromise were the same in that we came to an agreement with somebody and had to either give something up or not. We didn't feel heard. Perhaps that's what happens with me is if I'm going to come to the table and compromise with somebody, we both have to feel good about it. And in the past, I didn't necessarily feel good about it. Yeah. Which is why when you were like, I don't think compromise should exist in a relationship, I'm like, me too. And for people hearing this, they may think, well, how the hell are you functioning?
Yeah.
I don't know. How are we? Like, well, we're accepting each other as we are.
Yeah, and we talk. I mean, we're going to come back to that old chestnut, right? Communication is key. You have to communicate all that stuff. So compromise. I can't even think of a situation where you and I would compromise, because don't we both, at the end of the day, in a relationship, don't we both want the same thing? Don't we both want to be in the same place as one? I mean, that's it.
And things may pop up where we do have to sit down and go, we have to make a decision here.
Yeah.
And hopefully it comes to a place where the decision is something we both feel good about. So maybe what we're saying here is it's not a compromise if someone feels a level of pain or it's unfair.
Yeah. And that compromise can never be used, at least in my mind, I'm just thinking about this, can never be used in the future to come back and say, but I did this for you then, so now you have to do this for me now. What do they say? You put it in the marriage bank or whatever, to pull it out later. I mean, that can't happen.
No.
That's just not healthy.
I was about to, you just took the words right out of my mouth. It's not healthy. So that wraps this up, but we should tell our lovely friends sitting in front of us. We seem to do it. We talked about tolerance and acceptance. And the next episode, lovely episode 7, we're making it. We're doing this.
Yeah.
We're We're going to talk about the difference between shame and guilt.
Yeah. And that's it. Yeah, we'll get. I don't want to keep going.
Give me a teaser. Give me a teaser.
We could
Just
get
a taste.
Yeah, I mean, I never really thought about the difference between shame and guilt until you go and get a little help and get things figured out, and then it's like, oh my God, had no clue. So yeah, it's an interesting, deep subject.
And we're going to
Shame
dive
and guilt.
into it. So you discovered toward the end of your marriage, there was a difference between shame and guilt. You learned that difference, and we're going to share that with our listeners on our next episode.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
And now I'm going to go finish the rest of the pot of Burke's beans that we got going on
Cheers.
because I can smell it.
It'd be so good.
It'd be so good.
All right, loves. We'll see you next time. Thank you.
Bye-bye.